Greetings, DFG here, guys. Hey, guys, I want to read a little something to you, and then I'm going to get into the title of this message and all this information. I'll call this video information or informative video. Something to just information to make you think, okay? But I'm gonna read this particular verse out of the book, out of our history book. Y'all know, you know, I don't believe that we can build a community or have a foundation or have trust, respect, growth, economic, you know, um, uh, explosion, all the things synergy that makes up a community without a foundation. And that's why you constantly hear me reference to you Hebrew Israelites that you got to go to the book because that's where our foundation, is. This book here, give you an example. See, this is the Red Book. And, this is from Mao Tong-Sang. He was the revolutionary leader of China when China was going through its own, transition from being one of the poorest nations on the planet, a heavily colonized nation on the planet, to now a superpower, sitting next to the United States, if not superior to the United States, 70 years later as a superpower. But it started with a man who took a principle, value system, and put it in a book, and everybody lived by that book. And now look at China today. Well, we have a very similar book, but more superior, this book, okay? So I went longer than I wanted to say, but that's why you continue to hear me going back to the book. It's not about religion. It's about you, me, our people. Anyway, but it's Ecclesiastes chapter 8, and it's one little verse. Verse 9, it reads, "Miss not the discourse of elders, for they also learned of their fathers, and of them thou shalt learn understanding, and to give an answer as need requires." Okay? One more time. "Miss not the discourse of the elders, for they also have learned of their fathers, and of them thou shalt learn understanding, to give answer as need requires." Okay? So, elder, hoary head, great. All right, so I'm sharing with you out of love and out of respect. So as I go a little bit further in this, one thing I want to add before I share this message is that I want to challenge you as a people. We have to stop being so hard on Hebrew Israelites when it comes down to things that we don't agree with. I know a lot of you guys have cable and you watch all these different programs on television, whatever, your favorite programs. And sometimes they say dumb shit. Sometimes you can't wait for the next episode to come on. But what you don't do is you don't cancel your cable, or I'm never going to watch Game of Thrones again or I'm never going to watch Power again. Not that I promote watching Power and, or Empire. But you don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater when you're doing that, or you're watching, white media. You know what I'm saying? American media. But whenever you're watching your own people media, then there's a different mentality. As soon as someone said something, then we tend to attack them and, cuss them out and, unsubscribe or delete them or, just go on attack. I'm challenging you to be a lot more, to start becoming a little bit more mature, okay? Don't be so harsh. If you don't like with something, someone will say, okay, fine, I just don't agree with them. But I'm not going to dismiss them, because all information is good information. And, and we would have to be unbright. The only information we want to hear is the information that we like. There's a scripture where it talks in Deuteronomy, it talks about this bread that they would give to the men who did the offerings inside of the tabernacle. It was called showbread. And this showbread, they said it was bitter to the mouth, but it was sweet to the belly. See, sometimes you may hear things that are bitter to your ear, but once you get an understanding that could be the very thing that start you on the path to a revelation about something. Maybe you had no understanding of its relevance, or its importance, okay? Trying to get that glare out of the way. But anyway, that being said, I hope that you're more patient with us, platform creators. We create it because we feel like we have something to say. We create it because we feel like you're worthy of us telling it to. We create it because we want to be a contributor to the community. And sometimes we get it wrong, okay? But we still love you enough to take the time to do it. So I hope that resonates with you. And whether you agree with this message or don't, I hope you just take it, reflect on it, and keep it moving or, something, but don't overreact to it is what I'm saying. All right? So a lot of information, guys. But anyway, this article that I want to talk about, I heard another person on their platform, and they were talking about how that, the population for African Americans, using that term, Hebrew Israelites, continues to stay at 13%. In 1865, we were 13% of the population. 2019, we're still 13% of the population. And so she felt that they were misleading us with that data, that there are a lot more of us than that they're reporting that they are here, on the continent. You know what I'm saying? They are here in America. Now, whether she's right or whether she's wrong, I don't know. The data is for the most part, is the only data that we have. We don't have to believe the data, but if we're going to quote data, then you got to get the data from somewhere. So, go figure. But again, I'm not disagreeing, with her. But, she was talking about how that, again, the 13% hadn't changed for almost, 170 years, however long period that is, 150 years. You can do the math on that. And then in addition to that, 13 colonies, the 13th Amendment. So this number 13 seems to resonate in terms of a number to somehow or another keep us monitored, keep us in check. And, of course, someone was pushing back on her and said, well, the reason, that we only had 13% of the population was because of abortions. And, of course, she called bullshit on it. And, she may be right. Maybe, that's bullshit. Even if it had something to do with abortion, I don't know how the number would still stay at 13%. So I kind of think she may be onto something, but how she's getting there, other than just a spiritual, awareness of it, or it's just some kind of spiritual inclination from Yahuwah giving it to her, I can't say. All right? But this is what I will say. Let me read this article. This is New York Times op-ed. It says, pregnancy kills, abortion saves lives. Kind of odd. In the New York Times article, let me read it, reacted to a new Alabama law that significantly limits abortions in the state by publishing an op-ed this week entitled, Pregnancy Kills, Abortion Saves Lives. Brian Hart reports the article written by Warren Hearn, who specializes in late-term abortions, claims that every pregnancy poses a serious health risk to the mothers, whereas abortions can be life-saving. Hearn also notes that black women are more likely to die from pregnancy in Alabama than white women, but failed to mention that black babies are 3 times more likely to be aborted and that Planned Parenthood intentionally targets black neighborhoods for their clinics. Okay? Let me read that last paragraph to you again. Hearn also notes that black women are more likely to die from pregnancy in Alabama than white women, but failed to mention that black babies are 3 times more likely to be aborted, and that Planned Parenthood intentionally targets black neighborhoods for their clinics. I agree with the last part of that statement. Planned Parenthood does target our communities. I've seen billboards. You heard me talk about it on some of my other platforms, where Planned Parenthood has these billboards sitting out there, in the middle of inner city, all over the country, and encouraging, our sisters to go to the abortion clinic. Well, they don't call it abortion, to go to Planned Parenthood. But so there may be something to that last statement. At least I believe there's a lot to that last statement. Now, am I talking about anti-abortion here? As a man of the Most High, as your brother, as your father, as your son, we can't kill our babies. So I'm never gonna be pro that. But at the same time, you have to make the decision that's right for you and your family. And if you make that decision, you don't want to have to deal with the consequences of that decision. And I think that, that's something that should be heavily considered, before decided. All right? That's my personal opinion. The Most High say we shouldn't do it. It's against our laws to offer our children up, to sacrifice, even though I know it's not called sacrifice, it's called abortion. But scripturally speaking, it's called offering your child up to Moloch, or offering your child up to the gods, so to speak, okay? So, that being said on that issue, let me give you some additional numbers to go along with this abortion argument. I did some research on it, all right? Is it true that there are more black babies aborted than white babies aborted? Here's the facts that I found out. For every 1,000 black women, for every 1,000 black women, there are 27 abortions. For every 1,000 white women, there are 10 abortions. So if you just looked at that number in its obvious sense, you may have to you could conclude easily that there are, more black babies, 27 per 1,000, 10 per 1,000, than white babies being aborted. But the truth of that number, to really get a better understanding, you have to extrapolate that number out. And you have to go back and start looking at the census numbers. How many white women in America versus how many black women, or so-called black women in America? And when you do that math, then all of a sudden now 27% of that, 27 times 1,000 versus 10 times 10 per 1,000, the number totally changes. And what I found out, just based off of looking at the overall population, going 50% men, 50% women, because you got about 270 million whites, about 40 million blacks. So if you consider that half the whites are women, half the black are women, now you're down to 20 million women, obviously with 135 million, white women, 20 million black women. And then if you go back in and say, okay, well, half of those women are age and in there and old enough to have abortions or have babies, and then all of a sudden that number comes down to somewhere in the neighborhood of about, I want to say 70 million white women, 70 something like that. 70 million, and black women come somewhere around about 10 million, give or take, that number. So based off the math I did, the actual numbers came out to be this. There are 370,000 black babies aborted in America every year, and there are 720,000 white babies aborted in America every year. Again, 370,000 black babies aborted every year, 720,000 white babies. So it's almost, for every one black baby that's aborted in America, 2 white babies are aborted in America. That's the math. That's the closest I could come up with a number that actually made sense. So is there some truth to I don't want to call out a name because I don't have her permission. What's the name of her channel? Even though I said a channel, it would say her name. But there is some truth to what this sister is saying, okay? She's right. More black babies are not being killed every year than white babies via abortion. They just aren't. But if you looked at it, I'm talking when you look at the whole number. But if you look at the number in terms of, do the 27 babies aborted per 1,000 have a greater impact on the black community than the 10 babies times 1,000 on whites? The answer is absolutely, without question. Then we double up on them. So the abortions are hurting us overall a lot worse than it's hurting them for these numbers that I just shared with you. But if you just come back in terms of just pure babies being aborted, then again, you're 2-to-1 white versus black. But last thing again, I'll say before I end this video, again, I'm not again trying to lecture you as much as inform or educate you. And when it comes down to pregnancy or getting pregnant or things like that, those things are things that we have to take a lot of caution and really not caution, but we have to be very conscientious about what we're doing. Maybe that's the best word. And if you're going to engage in activities that could result in a pregnancy, whether you're male or female, male impregnating a female or female being impregnated, I think that we have to really weigh those decisions that we're making and make sure if that's something that we do, that there's a possibility that can happen. Then I think we should be thinking strategically, planning, in a manner to say, okay, if this does happen, either we're gonna be able to, can we help and provide and bring this baby up in a safe environment, a safe home, a healthy home, or looking at other options in terms of adoption, surrogate parenthood, other kind of things that are out there versus the first option, to abort. So again, just to give you some information, give you some stats, give you some statistics. Scripture teaches our people perish for a lack of knowledge and understanding. All right, and so for us to get to the place where we want to be, as a strong nation of people, again, we got to use the book to lead us, and we have to have enough confidence in our elders to teach us, male or female, if we're going to be the best that we can be as a people. Okay, love you guys, DFG. Talk to you next time. Bye now.